Okay, so welcome back. Congratulations. This is the 10-minute presentation. And so we called you back by the company to give a full presentation for your second visit. They have asked you to speak only about the ethical aspects of the problem and to explain why your solution successfully handles any ethical issues. You will have 10 minutes. There will be no Q&A. You will not use slides or videos, and you probably don't want to have more than 2 or 3 members of your team present. And so senior judges will provide feedback after your presentation. We intend to do that after we hear all the presentations. And so we're going to go, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, and then get some feedback afterwards. All right, so if we're ready, we're going to go to G15, Madini Consulting. If you're ready, we'll start the clock now.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Madini Consulting, we are excited to have this opportunity to discuss a topic that is both timely and very important, which is about Apple's sourcing of cobalt from the Democratic Republic of Congo and the ethical practices and implications of its business. My name is Tiana Montague.
My name is Andreina Vanoni.
So cobalt is a key component in the production of smartphones and other electronics, and the DRC is responsible for producing more than half of the world's cobalt supply. Mining of cobalt in the DRC has been fraught with ethical concerns, including child labor, hazardous working conditions, and environmental damage. So we believe it is important to have an open and honest discussion about these issues and to consider the ways in which Apple can play a role in promoting ethical practices and sustainability in their supply chain. Unfortunately, Apple has faced criticism from NGOs and human rights groups for its supply chain practices related to conflict minerals. Reports indicate that Apple suppliers have used conflict minerals sourced from the DRC and surrounding countries. In a report published by Enough Project, assessed the efforts to implement responsible sourcing practices for conflict minerals of 20 of the world's largest electronic companies, which also include Apple. Apple was criticized for not providing enough transparency and verification of its due diligence efforts. Specifically, the report found that Apple had not publicly disclosed the names of smelters and refiners and had not conducted independent audits of its suppliers. Despite this criticism, Apple has taken several steps to improve its supply chain practices. In response to Enough Project report, Apple committed to responsible sourcing and has made significant progress in mapping its supply chain and improving transparency. The company has pledged to eliminate conflict minerals from its supply chain and to work with industry groups and nonprofit organizations to promote responsible sourcing practices. These mineral sourcing practices include conducting due diligence efforts in their supply chain, smelter validation, transparency and disclosure, stakeholder engagement, and promoting the use of conflict-free minerals. These goals align with the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals, which is to ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. By 2030, Apple aims to achieve its goal of 100% responsible mineral sourcing by increasing transparency, improving due diligence, and building relationships with its suppliers. Apple can, however, do more to expand its due diligence and efforts beyond conflict minerals to include other human rights risks in its supply chain, such as forced labor, environmental degradation, and worker safety. As a major world company, Apple has the influence to advocate for stronger frameworks to prevent human rights abuses in global supply chains. Achieving these goals can help reduce the risk of human rights abuses and armed conflict in the regions which conflict minerals are sourced, contributing to the broader goal of promoting peace and sustainability in these regions.
Out of the 23 cobalt suppliers authorized by Apple, 20 are Chinese smelters. While Western companies claim to enforce their own codes of conduct and regulations on their suppliers, these standards appears to be disregarded further down the supply chain. Apple has to ensure that their sourcing practices do not contribute to human rights abuses, including forced child labor and exploitation of workers. The mining of cobalt has been associated with such abuses, and therefore Apple has a moral imperative to take steps to prevent this from happening. Apple's decision to use and insert cobalt from suppliers cannot be considered ethical, regardless of the amount of profits it generates for the company. True that the economic benefits to the company outweigh the cost of shipping and extraction, but humans have dignity and cannot be treated as commodities. The end simply does not justify the means. As it well stated in the world of business ethics, act only on the maximum whereby at the same time it becomes a universal law. The decision of Apple to obtain cobalt from companies who mine in Congo using child labor is unethical. Practicing child labor is universally unethical and cannot be justified under these conditions. Apple buys from suppliers who engage in forced child labor in dangerous conditions. Will they want this for their children? The answer is no. So when they cannot make this decision under similar conditions for their children, then this decision cannot be taken for any children. Being forced as a child to work, and especially in dangerous environment where death might be a result, this is an action that cannot be considered a universal moral act. On the other hand, shareholders advocate that a company's primary obligation is to maximize profits and shareholder value. When assessing the ethical implications of Apple cobalt sourcing from the Republic of Congo, shareholder theory will concentrate on the financial impact of the sourcing practices on Apple's shareholders and its overall financial performance. From the point of view, Apple may argue that its sourcing practices from the Republic of Congo are warranted because they provide benefits to its shareholders. Cobalt is a crucial component in electronic product manufacturing, including Apple's popular iPhone and iPad devices. Sourcing from the Republic of Congo allows Apple to acquire cobalt at a reduced cost, lowering production costs and increasing profitability. But Apple has a moral duty to act in the best interests of all its stakeholders, which also include its customers, employees, and suppliers. This responsibility extends ensuring that its sourcing practices do not contribute to human rights abuses or support conflict and violence. Although the shareholder theory emphasizes the importance of maximizing profits, it does not justify the exploitation of vulnerable people or the financing of conflict and violence. Apple has taken some measures to address these concerns, such as working with suppliers to enhance conditions and implementing traceability programs to monitor the supply chain. However, it may need to do more to ensure that these sourcing practices align with its corporate values and responsibilities. As the global usage of smartphones and electronic rises, so will the demand for cobalt. And the worse the mining conditions will become in order to meet the rising demand. Apple is indirectly sponsoring the atrocities committed in that region, and it's a key player causing the insecurity in the Republic of Congo. Apple must implement necessary measures in order to ensure that the cobalt sourced for their devices is obtained legally and ethically. Although Apple has made significant progress in ethical practices, more can be done to improve supply chain transparency, reduce human rights risks, and achieve 100% responsible mineral sourcing. We hope that you'll find this discussion informative and thought-provoking, and that it will inspire you to think critically about the ethical implications of the products we use every day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so wonderful. We will follow up with some comments after all the presentations. So we will move over to our next group, which was the group that was first up, KBJ. Is everyone here and ready for their presentation? KBJ Consulting.
Yep. Sorry about that. We were running a little tardy.
All
So
right.
we're in the wrong room. So So welcome. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here. We are KVJ Consulting. I'm Jonathan King. This is Kavya Parthaban. And then we also have Bruna Pasas Amaral, who she's a little under the weather. So you're going to get the two of us tonight. We're here to talk about the ethics, fraught, difficult, and possibly and probably ameliorable of subprime lending, specifically for auto loans, for your company, the Credit Assurance Corporation.
We want to humanize this case, right? Put yourselves in the shoe of Lauren, a 20-something-year-old single mother of two. She has 2 years of college, but had to drop out due to her pregnancy to make ends meet, and she depended heavily on credit cards. And as you can imagine, this took a hit on her credit score. Lauren finds it extremely difficult to keep a stable job and provide a comfortable livelihood for her children. And this is due to her lack of independence in transportation. The last time she bought a car, a second-hand car, because that's what she could afford, she could not meet her monthly loan payments. And this was due to an unexpected health emergency. As you can imagine, kids get sick. You don't know. And falling prey to the system, Lauren is not able to fund a car loan. This is due to the exorbitant interest rates. And this leads to her falling right back into the cycle, which is edging her ever so closer to the poverty line. We're not here today to talk about how we let this situation get the better of us or hold anyone accountable. We want to ensure that you stay ahead of the regulatory curve. Although the New York State and Federal Bureau are breathing down your necks with lawsuits about possibly predatory lending practices, we want to focus on the ethics of this situation. Subprime loans are a necessity, but they are ethically fraught, and they make money from the least of us. So what is the right path forward? How do we recognize the risk, aid our community, and still make a profit as a business? The answer, ethical training. Clearly, there are employees making less than ideal choices. And this is due to selfish reasons. As a business, we give targets to our employees and we make them hit them. Our plan of action is to address these and uncover the motivation behind these sales. The easiest way to do this is to change the goal of our organization. How do we bolster the ideology of making ethical considerations that are sustainable? Follow this with training. Your employees should be a reflection of the company's vision. They should walk the talk. And we estimate that training your employees costs nothing near of $450 per person. And this can be lowered by partnering with an educational institution. Compared to the cost of keeping your customers like Lauren in their cars, the cost is minuscule.
So we want to make sure that we discuss the ethics of this organization, the stated ethics. First of all, it was to treat, to remind CAC of your values. So, first, treat all borrowers fairly, promote individual responsibility, make sure those loans are repayable, act responsibly to benefit shareholders, educate borrowers, and then also, of course, take confidentiality seriously. So, as my colleague mentioned, subprime loans are, by their necessity, an ethically fraught issue. However, they provide a necessary service that otherwise provides credit to consumers who really couldn't afford it elsewhere. So we see CAC and your business as one that needs to be brought in line as much as possible, made into the best ethical version it can be, because by its nature, we're making money off of people who can least afford to give up that money, right? So, often we're dealing with borrowers that it's difficult to deal with. They can be less than trustworthy. We can have some suspicion of them, and therefore it works its ways into our business practice that we're looking to, make sure they don't take advantage of us, make sure that we're getting one over on them. But, as my colleague mentioned, we really need to focus on that training. But also, another thing that we need to do is we need to look at what our borrowers think they're getting into. One of the allegations that New York State makes is that borrowers didn't fully understand the fees nor the interest rate for the loans they were agreeing to take on. That's a huge issue. And I think, ladies and gentlemen of the board, that you would agree that that is not the right way to take on credit. You and I, when we take on credit, most likely we at least look at the credit information pamphlet. Well, these consumers did the same thing, and often they actually ended up surprised at the end. That is an ethical issue because we're hiding ourselves. We're hiding what we do, and we're hiding the way we conduct business. So we suggest that CIC needs to really think about being more open. They need to be transparent. They need to be, the company needs to work on making sure that every borrower goes into the situation understanding that there are costs. And, unfortunately, it will cost them more. Honestly, I might, with my MBA, I might give a little lesson on a financial calculator if anyone likes it. Happy to do that with your sales force. But all jokes aside, really actually explaining the full cost of borrowing over the lifetime of the loan so that really consumers are going in and really understanding what they're getting into. So, the other thing that we'd like to think about is there a way to look at, if we do reform, is there a way to either write off any of the principal or look at any kind of reduction in interest rate for anyone who was charged higher than they thought? And really put in place a process to be able to review past cases. This is not only the right thing to do because you're helping someone out fiscally who really needs the help, but also you're getting ahead of that lawsuit. You're making good on the complaints without having to be forced to do it. I think if I know anything, the judge might actually look favorably on that should we ever end up getting to litigation. So, the other part of this is that communication can also go out to our community around this. We can use what is a weakness and turn it into a strength within our industry, within the industry. CIC can look at communication and communicating about the service it provides and the consumers it serves, and really communicate that. Do outreach to local organizations, work with community leaders, so that CIC really becomes like an ideal lender. Someone that people actually ask for when they go to buy that used car, when they need to buy it. I think that'll differentiate CIC in a market that's right now undifferentiated. And the last thing we'd like to touch on is really the idea of the coming tide of repossessions. We'd like to make sure that the borrowers of CIC stay in their cars. 7 million Americans are 90 or more days delinquent right now. And we believe that there's going to be a huge wave coming in the summer of 2023. So one of the things that we suggest is this is, of course, a damage to the community and also represents some possible malfeasance or possible unfortunate choices. We're not going to say who did anything wrong, but we are going to make sure that we're making things right. Keep those consumers in their vehicles as much as possible. Keep the maximum number of people there, because we believe that if we do not do that, people will fall further into a pit of debt, despair, and economic damage. We want to make sure that every Lauren can pick up her kids and make sure that they can stay in their vehicles, even if they're having trouble making payments. So that means deferring any kind of payment, looking at reductions in rate or in principal, and figuring out a sustainable path forward that can help consumers like Lauren keep driving her kids to school and getting to work.
Without reducing the severity of the problem, we believe that these 3 steps are going to help your company continue making ethical decisions. Number 1, training. Make sure all your employees are walking the talk, examining the issue, understanding where the business is today and the areas that we can improve, and communicating this with your borrowers to make sure that you keep them in their car as much as you can. By doing this, you'll be ethical leaders and also in the industry, but also have a long run in having a competitive advantage, helping customers like Lauren stay above the poverty line and lead a stable life. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So wonderful. Okay. So next is Windchill Consulting. Are we ready to go?
Yes, we are.
Okay, right. So the clock starts now.
Hello, I'm Serene Desmond from Windchill Consulting, and I'm joined by my colleagues, Jiaoji and IBESCC. Over the last several years, we've all either experienced or found out about the impact of climate change. I can vividly remember an image of koala bears being singed by the 2019-2020 brush fires in Australia, or last year's flooding in the Okanagan Valley, and the recent massive earthquake in Syria and Turkey. Climate change has had and will continue to have devastating consequences to our Earth. Some examples are over 2 million deaths, 3.64 billion US dollars in losses, loss of biodiversity and coastal land, shrinking due to rising seawaters, increased food insecurity, and a lack of access to clean water. All of us need to make sustainable changes now to avoid irreversible damage to our environment. So how can Delivery Hero do its part in helping protect our environment? We know that your company cares about the environment and conserving it for future generations. You want to help the United Nations achieve Sustainable Development Goal number 13, taking urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. From our perspective, your good intentions have been bogged down with trying to find the perfect global solution. From the perspective of your customers and those that will benefit from a better environment in the future, it's important that you make impactful changes to your carbon emissions now, even if the initial process needs to be refined later. Some business opportunities related to becoming more sustainable include tapping into sustainability-minded consumers that are putting their money where their mouths are. So making purchase decisions based on the company's sustainability practices. So this can help you increase your market share. These sustainability consumers are already widespread in Europe, and they're growing rapidly in Latin America, the Middle East, North Africa, and Asia. We also encourage you to be proactive on sustainability and not wait for legislation to change regarding carbon emissions and electric vehicle mandates. Some threats that would be minimized with acting more sustainable include minimizing the risk of potential lawsuits relating to misleading advertising, which can cause financial loss with claims, as well as the potential loss of trust and customer loyalty that can lead to decreased sales. So IBESCC will now discuss the ethical issues of your current sustainability strategy of using carbon offsets to claim carbon neutrality.
Thank you, Serene. Thank you, Serene. Delivery Hero claims carbon neutrality, but there is no clear communication as to how you are achieving this. We all know that this could be a huge risk for your company. We have seen various lawsuits against wrongful claim of company. For example, Volkswagen claimed that their electric vehicles had zero emissions. Although their claim was right, but why it had zero emissions was not communicated well to the consumer. And as a result, they had to pay huge fines. Even though you clearly communicate that the carbon neutrality that you are achieving is because of purchasing carbon offset, is that enough? Let's see the ethical aspect. For one, even if your claims are right, even if you claim that carbon offsets are leading to carbon neutrality, it's not enough because the current operations are not in line with your long-term goals. In your website and in all your reports, you have mentioned that you want to become more sustainable by making the restaurant and delivery ecosystem sustainable. By focusing on carbon offset, by focusing on operations in South America, by planting trees in some other part of the world, is not making the restaurant and delivery ecosystem sustainable. Is this fair? No. Your sustainability projects do not impact the same area of your operation, which creates a conflict of interest. Definitely, you care about the shareholders, you care about their profitability, you care about the restaurant so that they can make a profit. But what about the current and future generations whose security of food and water are on the line? What about their safety from the elements? I would like to say that your tagline says that you are hero because you care. It's not clear right now whether you really care or not because of your own sustainability approach. Therefore, if you want to convey the message to the world and you want to take the pole position of becoming the most sustainable and ethical player in this field, we recommend that you invest in your own operation. Not just that, you need to be completely transparent and accurate in all your communications, both internally as well as externally. With this, I would like to hand it over to Zhaoji, who would talk about this recommendation in depth and also discuss its impact.
Thank you, Abhishek. As Abhishek talked, as a leading food delivery platform company, Delivery Hero should stop relying on others to offset the negative environmental impact caused by the operation of Delivery Heroes and its partners, and change its carbon neutrality claim to transparent, accurate marketing. Delivery Hero should and needs to operate in a more sustainable, responsible, and ethical way, and leverage its leading position to play a more active role in food delivery chains to reduce carbon emissions and produce more positive influence. By adopting the green delivery strategy, Delivery Hero could help build a more environmentally friendly food delivery ecosystem by using a new delivery policy to prioritize carbon zero infrastructure, partnering with upstream suppliers to provide affordable approaches to facilitate the transition of riders and restaurants, and marketing a strategy to communicate with customers. Through all of these efforts, Delivery Hero could make great positive environmental impacts. In 2021, every 1,000 orders could produce 1.25 tons of carbon dioxide in the operation of Delivery Hero and its partners, like restaurant and riders. Using the green delivery strategy to promote electrical vehicles and sustainable packaging, Delivery Hero could stop 70.5 million tons of carbon dioxide from going to the climate in the next 10 years, which is 20 times of greenhouse gas emission produced by Delivery Hero and its partners in 2021. Avoid the landfill of more than 57 billion takeout containers and transfer 125.8 billion kilometers of delivery distance to green delivery. And also, the transparent and accurate marketing campaigns regarding its green delivery efforts will deliver clear messages to customers about what sustainable food delivery looks like, and educate and inspire more customers to take action by using their own power to make changes. Working with millions of restaurants and riders and serving and communicating with billions of customers, Delivery Hero will practice and promote an ethical and responsible operation approach and help build a sustainable food delivery ecosystem. At the same time, Delivery Hero will also get financial benefits, achieving 4.86 million euros of net profit value and create more value for its shareholders. You are heroes because you care. You care about the benefits of shareholders. You care about the well-being of partners. You care about the customers' preferences, and you also care about the environment and communities where you affect and are being affected. As the industry leader in 56 countries, Delivery Hero can and will benefit all stakeholders in an ethical and responsible business running. Thank you.
Hey, let's see what I got here. Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Next up is 4x4 Consulting. I think we're ready, right? 4x4
Yes.
Consulting, okay. All right,
Awesome.
clock starts now. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, good evening, and thank you so much for inviting us back to Audi to discuss the ethical considerations of our proposal. Through a public-private partnership between you, Energy Source, and the Brazilian Energy Regulatory Agency, ANEEL, we hope to address UN Goal 7 of affordable and clean energy, as well as Goal 11 of developing sustainable cities and communities by repurposing your used EV batteries into community energy storage through a pilot program in the Santa Marta favela in Rio. Our solution addresses two major sustainability issues. One, as you know, many automakers have shifted towards the deployment of electric vehicles, including right here at Audi. The EV market will continue to grow exponentially. And in Brazil alone, as you know, they're projected to have 2 million electric vehicles on the road by 2030. Although we agree that this is a positive step in the right direction in sustainable transportation development, experts say that there will be 12 million tons of lithium-ion batteries retired by 2030. Even though it's no longer useful for vehicles, these batteries are typically estimated to retain up to 80% of their capacity, and they have many potentials for second life capabilities. With your mission of having an all-electric fleet by 2029, it is now imperative for Audi to be proactive in determining the next steps for your batteries as they're retired from vehicles. Now, let's talk about the second problem. In Brazil, there's approximately 12.6 million people that live in informal, low-income communities called favelas. These favelas tend to have subpar electrical infrastructure, which means that power is unreliable and unsafe. To give you some background, only 35% of the 3,500 residents in the Morro de Sereno favela are serviced by legal electricity providers. Due to these inequalities, residents typically resort to building illegal connections to more affluent neighborhoods. These connections are known as gatos, and they often overload power grids and cause constant blackouts. Favela residents lose hours of electricity on a weekly basis, and in some extreme cases, some don't have electricity for a month. These blackouts not only negatively affect the residents who lose precious resources such as their appliances and their food, but also the economy, as these citizens are unable to work or study in these conditions. Now, I will pass it along to my teammate Colleen to discuss some of the ethical concerns as it relates to our stakeholders in the implementation of our solution.
Thank you, Kylie. So given the potential impact our solution can have on local communities, strong partnerships should be a top priority to ensure that ethical decision-making is made throughout this process. Audi will need to deeply consider the impacts this solution will have on all of its stakeholders. As we mentioned, the primary stakeholders are you at Audi, Energy Source, favela residents, and ANEEL. But it's also important that you build strong relationships to ensure regulatory, financial, and social needs are met, and continue to monitor and inform all of your secondary stakeholders like utility companies and Audi shareholders. In order to be a truly ethical leader with this solution, voices from all stakeholders must be heard and considered. In terms of partnership between you, Energy Source, and ANEEL, we also want to discuss what this pilot program will look like from the perspective of favela residents in terms of its physical implementation and project ownership. So as we discussed yesterday, we propose an initial pilot program in a subset of the Santa Marta favela. And we recommend that Audi lease 20 used battery packs to Energy Source, which will be stored inside a 10 by 22 foot shipping container that's connected directly to the grid and charges during off-peak hours at reduced rates. Based on our calculations, the average consumption of a household in a favela is about 5.9 kilowatt hours per day. And this community energy storage solution will provide affordable and reliable power to 300 to 400 households, depending on demand, with the potential to expand to even more later on. And we project that households could save on average about $15 per month. And when the average favela household income is $170 to $360, $15 in savings can make a huge difference for local families. This solution will not only provide clean energy to those who need it, but also create a new revenue stream for your company through the leasing of used batteries to Energy Source. We believe that hitting our target of reducing energy costs by 20 to 30% ensures stakeholder and project accountability. Next, Alex is going to do a deeper dive into the ethical considerations involved in our proposal and some of the mitigation strategies.
Thanks, Colleen. So the first ethical consideration is around security and safety protocols. The partnership must establish strict safety and security protocols to minimize risks associated with used batteries, like potential theft or batteries being used outside of their specified parameters, which can lead to damage or safety hazards. The partnership should establish clear guidelines for how to securely and correctly store these batteries to ensure that your bottom line at Audi and your brand image are protected, but also protects the well-being of favela residents. The second ethical consideration revolves around community engagement. So engaging with local organizations and community members is essential that the project benefits everyone. By directly involving the favela residents in decision-making and implementation, the PPP can address local concerns and priorities, promote inclusiveness, and foster long-term support for the project. So in regards to the size and placement of the EV battery storage container, this is why we are really highlighting and encouraging in our solution that you and other project stakeholders work with the local community members and follow the lead of favela residents to understand optimal placement of these containers, how it best fits within their community, and to ensure that it provides equitable access to those most in need. So we believe that attaining program awareness of 60%, meaning where residents of the favela are familiar with the project and project benefits, helps everyone involved ensure project viability. The third ethical consideration is sustainable economic development. Investing in capacity building for favela residents can help maximize the project's benefits. By creating jobs and training opportunities, local residents can learn technical skills for installation, maintenance, and management, which not only reduces project overhead costs for you and other partners, but also contributes to the economic development of these communities. Think about this, only 3.1% of favela residents that are 25 and older have a college degree, which limits their ability to attain higher paying jobs. So this project has potential to create true financial empowerment. So with the goal of creating 50 jobs directly related to this project, we can ensure stakeholder and project accountability. And the last ethical consideration is potential competition and partnerships from other EV manufacturers. So as previously mentioned, the EV market is rapidly evolving and other automakers are looking to make a positive impact with their cars. Because you currently lead the Brazilian EV at 24.1% market share, we believe that you are well positioned to showcase your leadership in EV circular economic development and can encourage other EV market competitors to join your efforts. This pilot program will allow you to spearhead and refine solutions that will create clean and reliable energy for favelas in Brazil. And rather than pursuing a more competitive approach to the market, Audi should encourage other EV manufacturers to follow in your footsteps by disclosing best practices and lessons learned from this pilot program. This knowledge sharing will help you expand the impact EV manufacturers can make in providing clean energy solutions, not only in Brazil, but in other low-income communities worldwide. So in conclusion, with your goal setting of 1.2 million EVs to be sold by 2030, 4x4 Consulting wants to help ensure that 16%, or roughly 200,000 of those cars, have a direct positive impact on lower socioeconomic communities by creating alternative and sustainable energy solutions. We believe that our proposal to repurpose your EV batteries into energy storage through a public-private partnership has wide-reaching positive opportunities, not only within Brazilian favelas, but also in other informal settlements. Through this pilot, we have the ability to directly empower communities by forming close relationships with government entities and encouraging partnerships with other EV brands. Audi can be a leader in the automotive industry by utilizing the second life capabilities of your EV batteries to ensure that human settlements are inclusive, safe, resilient, and most importantly, sustainable. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for consulting. So we have one last presentation, last but not least, Green Guardians. Are we ready? Okay.
Yeah, we are.
Okay. So we will start now. Thank you.
A very good evening to everyone present here. I'm Aprajita, and thank you so much for having Green Guardians back for further discussion on the ethical dimensions of steelmaking industry. We will not leave our village. We will not leave our forest. We won't leave our soil, and we will not back down from the fight. Malti, the 5-year-old girl, recalls the cries of the Aboriginal resistance that once belted out due to the protest of the iron ore mining in Kashipur. Only this time, 23 Aboriginal tribes from India and across the world put their arms around each other against the struggles that these communities face due to the intensive mining of ores for various industries. Our ideologies towards the environment has not much changed from the time of Descartes, who viewed environment in a utilitarian way and considers an infinite resource that humans can draw upon without any qualms. We can see to what extent such assumptions have led to the shameless exploitation of nature and pollution in all its forms. The steel industry being a major contributor towards the climatic impact.
So why ethical consideration is important? For one reason, the failure to consider the ethical aspects means that the current generation will treat unfairly the interests of future generations and poor people who do not have a say in environmental policy. Second, solutions to our most pressing environmental problems will require collective action involving almost all of the industries on Earth. Most industries are unlikely to agree to such collective action unless they believe that they are being treated fairly and ethically. This situation poses an important ethical question. Is scientific uncertainty about the timing and magnitude of climate change a valid excuse for not taking protective action? If we look at the global perspective of ethical consideration, we see that economically backward people around the world are the most vulnerable to climate change. The ecological systems of many nations are most at risk. The health and food supplies of the marginalized sector are at the greatest risk from global warming, and they have the least financial and institutional ability to adapt to climate change. The longer it waits to take action, the more difficult it will be to control the levels that do not create enormous damage. Being a torchbearer of ethicality and sustainability, let's start the process here only.
As your organization is a market leader in the steelmaking in India, your entire value chain and your practices can induce a domino effect, not only on the sustainable grounds, but also a deep impact ethically uplifting not only the communities around you, your local factory, sites of Jamshedpur, but throughout the nation, throughout the globe. We know the imperative of human responsibility principle that the German philosopher Hans Jonas developed in the late 1970s, thinking precisely of ecological issues. Act so that the effects of your actions are compatible with the permanence of genuine human life on Earth. From now on, it is a question of conceiving contemporary social life by integrating into the concern for the sustainability of the system in the very long term, by including future generations in the scope of our responsibilities. With about emissions of 2.6 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent of greenhouse gas emissions in the atmosphere, confronting the environmental challenge, considerations of fairness, equity, and justice towards the biodiversity and the local communities become one of the most important aspects of your organization. Your organization has previously installed Proludron Smart to reduce the PM levels in and around the Jamshedpur plant, but it has not been able to lower the emissions below 1.7 tons per ton of steel, and it thus continues to be one of the major sources of health hazard. We propose a solution of a green hydrogen-based DRI and electric arc furnace powered by renewable energy sources in place of your existing carbon-intensive process, leading to the reduction of 97% of carbon dioxide emissions. With this, you'll be able to produce the steel at a competitive cost even below the existing methods by 2040.
So now we will see how the ethical aspect of this solution can contribute to the greater good of society and the environment, creating long-term benefits for both businesses and their communities. As we transition towards more sustainable practices, such as green steel making, it's crucial to ensure, as a responsible organization, safety regulations are in proper place to protect workers, the environment, and the public. Also, we are incorporating new technologies with hydrogen-based processes, which will have different safety considerations compared to traditional steelmaking processes. Here we want to go ahead with the risk assessment procedures by following several Indian laws. We'll give importance to three basic things, which are proper hazard identification, evaluation of risk from it, and risk-oriented studies. Safety audit should be a top priority. The detection system, electrical connections, and various sources should be taken utmost care of. Also, we'll explore specific international safety guidelines and incorporate those into our standards. We should leverage the strong governance structure to monitor and supervise the safety scenarios. With the safety regulations, not only will boost the ethical aspects of it, but also facilitate trade and investment opportunities. We have also worked on the protection of the marine ecosystem. As our solution emphasized the need for a desalination plant, we arrested the harmful byproduct of it by making feasible solutions, eventually holding back the marine ecosystem intact. Now we will see how we are going to mitigate the existing ethical gaps through our solutions. Manufacturing centers set up in renewable energy-rich regions will be set up in areas far apart from human dwelling areas to avoid procurement of tribal lands and violations of land rights. It is to ensure that there is no disturbance to existing human settlements. Illegal mining of iron and manganese ore for steel production will be strictly curbed. Any mining activity that is undertaken without proper permission will be prohibited. We'll be extremely vigilant toward decreasing carbon emissions. Utmost importance is to be given to the reduction of the use of virgin materials and the conservation of biodiversity, all of which are essential for humankind. We will endeavor to stop the emission of unsafe and hazardous elements back to nature, soil, air, land, which can be perilous for living beings. The local community workforce can be leveraged in our new manufacturing centers that will open avenues of employment for them. So hereby the proposed solution, we want to arrest habitat destruction and land violation, protect biodiversity and natural resource, preserve the marine ecosystem and forest, lessen air pollution, create new jobs, expand the economy, develop the community, and improve public health.
On the sustainability aspect too, our proposed solution meets the majority of the goals of SDGs 9, 12, and 13, making it sustainable viable solution. When previously we saw that only a certain number of goals were being met, in terms of number, we have around 4 out of 8 goals, which has now increased to 5 out of 8 for SDG 9. Previously, it was 8 out of 12 goals for SDG 12. Now we have qualitatively and quantitatively enhanced the goal meeting facilities for SDG 12. And finally, previously when only 3 out of 5 goals were being met for SDG 13, now we have 4 out of 5 goals in SDG 13 being met. It is said that the human body resonates at the same frequency as Mother Earth. So instead of only focusing on trying to save the Earth, which operates in congruence to our vibrations, I think it is more important to be one with each other. If you really want to remedy the Earth, we have to mend mankind. The unsustainable practices that we commit has to be addressed, the ethical roots strengthened, and the social responsibilities enhanced. With our proposed solution, you could become change makers of tomorrow, setting trends in not only the steel making industry, but also associated industries, driving a wave of change in mitigating the impending catastrophe of climatic change. As Gaylord Nelson had rightly quoted, our goal is just not an environment of clean air and water and scenic beauty. The objective is an environment of decency, quality, and mutual respect for all other human beings and for all other living creatures. These are exactly the values that Green Guardians focuses on adding to your organization as you lead the industry with your products and services. Thank you so much.
Okay, wow. To everyone, wonderful. Okay, so Mrs. Tara and I will just do the best we can to provide a bit of feedback. But
we shall try.
Yeah, if you can imagine.
These were amazing. I mean, amazing 10-minute presentations, you guys. Bravo to every one of you. I have to tell you a little secret. I am an engineer by training, and I'm listening to all of you present these complicated and complex ethical, moral dilemmas. And the engineer in me is saying, okay, how can I come up with a solution for this? You know, I love the public-private partnership, and I'm very involved in one of those efforts right now. So it's like, yeah, I mean, can we do more of that? So again, really good presentations, very informative, very well researched. A couple of comments to everybody. I'll start with Green Guardians. Wow, what an impactful opening and closing. And also for the team, all of the teams, very good that you focused on the ethical aspects, because that's really what we wanted you back for, is to focus on the ethical aspects of these issues that you brought up. But let me see. Yeah, Green Guardian. Wow, great opening and closing. Windchill Consulting. I was for a little bit concerned that I'm going to get lost between carbon offset and carbon neutral. And again, I'm just a simple engineer in here. But you really kind of explained it and put the detailed plan, the detailed solution together. Very proud of you. KBJ Consulting, again, a really good presentation, very personal. You really brought it home. It is just the effect on that young lady and buying her for a second-hand car. Again, very complex issue. It's one of those ethical issues that like most ethical issues, you know, it's a dilemma, and sometimes, a lot of times, there is no clean solution. So you did great with that. Madini Consulting, it's very again, it's very impressive what you have come up with, and in your presentation, even yesterday to Apple Board. Let me see which one. 4x4 Consulting. Again, it's just a great ideas about public-private partnership. Really good presentation, and again, I love that you emphasize the ethical part. Congratulations to everyone.
Cool. Yep. So just a few other comments. Timing was really good for all teams. Pretty much were right on line with the timing, which is important in presentation. So I was taking good notes of that. When I reflect again overall, the boldness, the integrity, the powerful statements, the clear and concise, ask, if you will, to the board was just impressive. And then the some of the humanization of some of the stories was again moving in terms of this. So throughout the different presentations we heard all those different dimensions that make for very effective presentation. And when we started with Medina, and one of the things clearly that I got out of that was this consistent push to do more. Although, yeah, Apple is doing some things, but they can do more and need to do more. And here's why they need to do more. So that consistent theme, not to settle with the activities that they are holding towards being ethical was a strong statement and theme of that message there. KBJ under the subprime, it was very interesting how you turned an inherently unethical business into to look towards really transforming itself to be more ethical and leading the way in that direction, which was pretty impressive. And then when I moved down to Windchill, I saw a theme around, again, really trying to hold true to the values of climate change and really understand how this impacts the future of all people and all in the community. And so I love the call out on the Volkswagen, fiasco there as a reminder of that work there. 4x4 Consulting, again, very, very powerful messaging around ethics. The call out on the actual specific United Nations sustainable goals was important. We heard that from most teams. When I go to Green Guardians, which we closed out with, again, very powerful messages, listing the gaps of equity gaps or ethical gaps, and then listing out, the recommendations, strong recommendations to solve those gaps was very powerful. And my thinking, and again, listing again all of the sustainable development goals from the UN was very powerful as well. And so just a few things. Now we have the tough job of sorting through much more of this and then coming up for score that truly contributes to all of your hard work and efforts. And so with that, really impressive, great job by everyone. And we are moved as judges. Every time we do this every year, we step away with so much honor. And we know the world is going to be a better world just because you're here. So thank you for your leadership.